Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into a real geological detective story.
Yeah, one that's been unfolding for, well, millions and millions of years.
Exactly. There's this recent study, and it seems to have finally solved a major puzzle hidden deep beneath the Pacific Ocean.
About a colossal super eruption from way back, like 120 million years ago.
Right. And its connection, its fingerprints on some of the biggest features in the Pacific. So if you're looking to connect some dots and maybe have a few aha moments today,
And you're definitely in the right place.
Yeah.
Our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack this groundbreaking research. It was published in Nature.
from geologists at the University of Maryland and University of Hawaii, right?
That's the one. We're going to explore this really unexpected link between, a deep sea hotspot, a huge chain of underwater mountains, and literally the largest volcanic plateau on Earth.
Okay, sounds fascinating. It feels like it could fundamentally reshape how you understand the Pacific's evolution.
It really does. Get ready for that.
All right, let's start with the puzzle itself. For a long time, the picture of Pacific volcanoes felt, fragmented, didn't it?
Yeah, disconnected. Scientists have been scratching their heads about the relationship between the Louisville hotspot, that's this persistent upwelling of heat and distinct chemistry from deep inside the Earth,
Okay.
and the Ontong Java Plateau, this absolutely immense underwater volcanic platform north of the Solomon Islands, formed, like we said, 120 million years ago.
So the big question was always, how do these connect? Or do they connect?
Exactly. And the interesting thing is, people tried. Previous theories looked at how the Pacific seafloor moved, trying to trace a path back.
But they couldn't quite nail it down.
No, none could provide a really convincing, complete explanation. It was like, crucial pieces of the geological puzzle were just missing. You couldn't see the full picture.
Right. And why was that? Where did the evidence go? You mentioned this Louisville hotspot track.
Well, that's where it gets tricky. Part of the direct evidence, the geological path linking the younger Louisville activity to the ancient Ontong Java Plateau, it seemed to have vanished.
Vanished. How does something that significant just disappear?
Subduction. Remember, the Earth's surface is made of these huge tectonic plates, constantly moving.
Okay, yeah.
And over millions of years in the Pacific, some plates slide underneath others. That's subduction. It basically swallows up parts of the ocean floor.
So it swallowed the evidence, the volcanic tracks?
Pretty much. The direct footprints, if you like, of the hotspot's earlier path were erased, carried down into the mantle.
Okay, so that's a major roadblock. How did the researchers get around that?
It was quite clever, actually. They decided to look elsewhere. They targeted a different, older hotspot track, sampling volcanoes that were really deeply submerged.
Why a different track?
The idea was to find older clues, maybe tens of millions of years older, about how the Pacific plate itself had moved over that whole time period. They hoped these clues would indirectly light up the connection back to Ontong Java.
So looking for echoes sort of in a different part of the ocean.
Exactly. And bingo. Near Samoa, their persistence really paid off. They found these underwater mountains, sea mounts,
Yeah.
and they were much, much older than anything they expected to find in that specific area. That was the first big aha moment.
Unexpectedly old. How old are we talking? And how do you even date an underwater mountain?
Good question. They use radiometric dating on the rock samples they collect. Looking at the decay of certain elements tells you the age. And they also look at the geochemistry, the chemical fingerprint of the magma.
And what did that show?
It showed these mountains didn't match the chemistry of the younger volcanoes nearby. Instead, their age and their chemical signature lined up perfectly with a much, much older section of the Louisville hotspot track.
Wow. So these were the missing footprints?
That's exactly how the lead researcher described them, footprints, leftovers from an ancient chapter of the Louisville hotspot's life.
Okay, let me see if I've got this. Imagine the Earth's crust, the Pacific plate, like a huge conveyor belt moving slowly over this fixed flame underneath the hotspot.
Good analogy.
The flame punches through, makes volcanoes. The plate moves on, carries the older volcanoes away, leaving a trail.
That's it.
So these old mountains near Samoa were part of that ancient trail long before the more recent Louisville chain we see further south even started forming.
Precisely. And by carefully dating these footprints and analyzing their unique chemistry, the researchers could reconstruct the Pacific plate's movement much more accurately, going way further back in time.
And that let them revise the existing models of plate motion.
Exactly. That refined understanding of the plate's long journey was the key. It allowed them to finally trace the plate's position right back to where and when the Ontong Java Plateau erupted.
Ah, I see it now. So mapping this ancient path using these old volcanic ghosts basically let them connect the dots across 120 million years.
That's the breakthrough. This study provides the first really solid, clear evidence linking the younger stuff in the South Pacific, the Louisville chain, directly to the super old features in the West Pacific, culminating in that massive Ontong Java eruption.
It's a unified story, finally.
A unified history for a huge chunk of the Pacific Basin's evolution, the quick version. One single deep Earth hotspot is responsible for both this long chain of younger volcanoes and the biggest volcanic plateau on the planet.
Events separated by tens of millions of years.
Right, which really forces us to rethink the sheer scale and longevity of the impact these mantle plumes can have.
That is a profound connection. Okay, so stepping back, why should you, listening at home, care about these ancient underwater mountains and super eruptions? What's the bigger picture?
Well, there are several really significant implications. First, it gives us a much clearer framework for understanding other old volcanic features, not just on the ocean floor, but also ones that form islands we see today.
Because we have a better map of how the plates moved.
Exactly. A more accurate model of how hotspots and plates interact over these vast timescales lets us interpret the geological history written in the Earth's crust much better. It's like suddenly an old faded map becomes much clearer.
Okay, like a geological Rosetta Stone for the Pacific. Makes sense.
Kind of, yeah. Second, and this is really important for people living in the region, this research is directly relevant to Pacific Island nations.
How so?
Many of these nations are built right on top of volcanic platforms or these underwater chains. Understanding how their foundations formed and evolved is, well, it's vital for assessing long-term stability, potential resources, and even hazards.
Right, so it's not just academic. It has real-world meaning for island communities.
Absolutely. And third, zooming out again, this specific study adds a really important piece to our global understanding of volcanism, how our planet works, basically.
Deciphering this huge Pacific event helps us understand the fundamental forces deep inside the Earth.
Precisely. The powerful processes shaping our world. Every piece of the puzzle we solve gives us greater clarity on the whole system.
You mentioned field work earlier. This wasn't all done on computers, was it?
Oh, not at all. This involved serious work out at sea. The researchers used sonar mapping from a research ship first.
To find likely spots.
Yeah, to create detailed maps of the seafloor, looking for the shapes of submerged volcanoes that might hold these ancient clues. Then, back on an expedition in 2013, they actually had to go get the rocks.
How do you get rocks from the deep seabed?
They used a dredge. You can picture it like a really heavy-duty metal basket that they drag along the bottom to scoop up samples.
Wow. So high-tech mapping combined with some pretty fundamental rock collecting?
It really highlights the hands-on nature of geology, doesn't it? It's like a deep-sea treasure hunt for scientific clues.
That's a great way to put it. Real adventure involved in piecing together Earth's history.
It is. And, it's worth mentioning this work was supported by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the National Science Foundation. Public funding is crucial for this kind of fundamental discovery science.
Definitely good to acknowledge. Okay, so let's try and bring it all together. This deep dive has shown us this study basically rewrites a key chapter of the Pacific's geological story. It definitively connects the Louisville hotspot to both its namesake chain and the colossal Ontong Java Plateau, solving a long-standing mystery.
That's the core takeaway. It's not just answering an old question. It genuinely opens up new ways to investigate Earth's dynamics.
Yeah.
And, as we said, it provides vital context for understanding the very foundations of many Pacific nations.
It really is incredible. It makes you think, these immense geological dramas played out over millions and millions of years, totally unseen. What other things in our world that seem completely separate might actually be linked by these deep, slow, powerful processes we're only just starting to fully grasp?
That's a great thought to end on. What other hidden connections are waiting to be discovered?
Something for you to ponder. Thanks for taking this deep dive with me today.